Okay, it's now 7 p.m. Call to order, flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first we have consent agenda, the Planning Commission minutes dated May 14th, 2019.
I'll make a motion to accept.
I have a
presented.
comment. I have a comment on those.
You were here.
I was not here, that's why I have a question. Can I ask a question?
No.
Oh, come on. Okay. Greg had said about charging a bond for construction projects because of the several recent dirt filling and things that were done and got in trouble with DEQ or whomever. I think private projects aren't required to do that now. Private projects, the developers do have their individual insurance. And it just is, needs oversight and enforcement. Possibly would have caught those ones. And so I don't think we need to add on, and especially when people want to talk affordability, another 1 to 5% on a project for a bond. It's just adding to the cost. It's just an insurance policy. So I'm not here to have them rebut that, but, and one of the biggest offenders on not doing fills right. Classic example is on White Street. The city is filling that site, and they're running trucks up and down, putting dirt on the street. They have no silt fence. They have nothing. So they haven't done any attempt to do anything to mitigate the soil erosion or anything like that. And the soil being dumped there has objects in it which obviously is not fill that can be compacted properly for future uses. They tell me they're going to make a road there eventually.
Yeah, in fact, we had a citizen ask the city council at our last meeting about the plan for that.
Okay.
And so you're not alone in talking about it.
Well, we paid the contractor to remove it all. It was using dump for years. And then when they put the sewer line in, they were required to take all that fill out. And so I don't see why we're not.
Yeah, the issue was that is a major storm line, and the city stopped filling it because it was on the verge of collapse, which would have been terrible. Luckily, that didn't happen, and we have it fixed. And I think because now it's fixed, that's why our public works started putting fill in there. But clearly, a lot of people are watching it, so I'll tell them about the lack of erosion control and soil ground content being put in there. So you're saying there's a lot of organics put in there?
Yeah, it's obvious. I think
Okay.
they're not putting as much in as they used to, but they're, I mean, you can be
Rubble.
after all these individuals, sure, they've done not according to DEQ and everything, but, they don't run, there's no proper entrance into the street to keep the trucks from mud from coming down the street, and, I know I couldn't do that, I would get fined, so the city seems to get away with it. Okay, one other question I had, in the statement from Linda Boland on the John L. Scott on the 164 South First, lenders would not loan on the property because it couldn't be replaced.
Oh, yeah. So it was a non-conforming use. And because it's general commercial, single-family dwellings are not a permitted use. And based on the non-conforming use rules, if a home was destroyed more than a certain percent, and it's 40 or 60, I can't remember which offhand, But anyways, if it's destroyed beyond a certain extent, it's done.
Okay.
And that was the lender issue. And that's what kind of prompted that zone change.
Mhm. Okay, great.
Council sees that at their upcoming meeting next
Yeah.
week.
And it makes sense. Okay, great. Anybody else besides me? All right.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
It's been made, seconded. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Hearing ayes.
Opposed.
Okay, opposed? None. All right, we have any topics from the floor not in the public hearing agenda, limited to 5 minutes topic. Anybody out there? All right, seeing none. Okay, the public hearing agenda, let's see, okay, we're good there. 7 PM, a conditional use permit at 500 North Columbia River Highway, G.A. Miller, architecture on behalf of the Columbia County Mental Health. Not yet. Okay, it's now 7:06. The public hearing is now open. I've got to read a few things first. This is a quasi-judicial land use hearing. The subject on this hearing is a request for a conditional use permit. Subject of the property is identified Columbia Assessor's Map, Lot 100 on map 4N1W-4B. The applicant is G.A. Miller Architecture, P.C., on behalf of Columbia County Mental Health. The owner is Columbia Commons, LLC. Because quasi-judicial proceedings require observance of certain procedural formalities, we'll take a few moments to cover some preliminary matters and required statements. Does any member of the commission wish to declare an ex parte conflict or conflict of interest or bias in the matter? Hearing none. Does anyone from the audience object to the ability of a commissioner to make a fair decision? Seeing none. Generally, the order of proceedings will be as follows. Required statement, staff report, applicant's presentation. Those in favor, neutral testimony. Those opposed, rebuttal by applicant. Final questions, close of the record, deliberations, and decisions. The following statements are required to be made at the commencement of the hearing pursuant to the City Code ORS and ORS 197.763.5. The following is a list of applicable substantive criteria for this decision. St. Helens Municipal Code 17.100.040.1A-F. All testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed towards the applicable substantive criteria as described or other criteria in the plan, such as a comprehensive plan, land use regulations, such as that found in the Development Code, which the person believes applies to the decision. Failure to raise an issue, including constitutional or other issues relating to the proposed conditions of approval in this hearing, in person or in writing, or failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the approving authority an opportunity to respond to the issue, precludes appeal to LUBA, the Land Use Appeals Board, on that issue, and precludes an action for damages in certain court. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a conditional use permit. It's for 2 uses. As defined in our code, it's a residential facility and hospital. But basically, it's an area where Legacy was. Of course, I think they've moved into their new building now along the highway, which leaves kind of a vacant chunk in this property that's been developed for a long time, since the 50s, I believe. And so in Legacy's place, they're looking at putting in a 16-bed residential facility for a 90-day drug and alcohol treatment and a 16-bed medical detox facility, which is 5 to 7 days. Both require a conditional use permit. And so one question that you may have if you're really a land use geek is, well, what's the difference between Legacy and at least the detox? And the distinction between medical offices or a clinic versus quote unquote hospital is inpatient versus outpatient. In this case, you do have the inpatient, and so that's one of the reasons it elevates to a conditional use permit. And then the residential facility is black and white. It's called a residential facility in the zoning, and that's what they want. And that's just a term of something licensed by the state. So those are the technicalities. With conditional use permits, we've seen ones that include bare ground, where we have to consider time, whether or not you allow it, and any time, place, and manner provisions. And then you have those that are developed, and so you don't get so much into the weeds of site design standards, but just time, place, and manner. So an example of the former, where it's bare ground and you're really digging deep into the site design standards, are the apartments that we reviewed, the big 18 building, 204 complex in the old Violet's Villa Park. We saw that last year. A little more recently, an example of one where we're focused a little bit more on just time and place and manner and less on site design was 100 St. Helens Street, the marijuana shop. So this is more like the latter, and then it's already developed site. But there's a little bit of site design review stuff we can consider. And two things that we talk about in the report is screening. So the site's old, but it is well landscaped. But as planners, we like to look at the current code and go, well, God, what would be updated if we went to the current code? And that would be some screening along the southwest side, as well as trash enclosures. There is a lot of landscaping, but no screening per se. And then there's no trash enclosures that we can find, but there are pads in various places for trash. And speaking with the property manager, it sounds like they are receptive to the landscaping and trash enclosures all around. And so my impression is we won't have to do a lot of arm wrestling over that, which is good because my arms are kind of skinny. So those are conditions to consider. And then the other one is, you do have a site with a variety of non-residential uses. And so this will have a residential component. And you get into the, is it going to be compatible with the non-residential uses, or is there something you can do to make it compatible? And I kind of talked with the architect early on when I was brainstorming the issue. And the only thing that came to mind, and of course, when we're going to have public testimony, that may get you to think more. But smokers, people want to smoke. It's likely that this population has a higher percentage of people who want to smoke. And given Oregon laws where you can't smoke within 10 feet of doors and vents and stuff, and given our weather here where it is wet and drizzly through much of the year, seems like you want to have a designated place to smoke that's sheltered. Now, of course, a building with people smoking in it, how the building code applies, that's another matter. But that's just one idea I had as well. It's similar to a parking. If you just have an open area, people may park willy-nilly, but if you have a designated area, it helps organize. So that was one thought I had. Of course, we're going to have a lot of opportunity for discussion, and we'll kind of see what they think. But that's one thing I think is worth considering, because you do have surrounding businesses that may help temper the presence of the residential stuff going on here. So the trash enclosure landscaping, they're kind of embodied in the conditions, and we can wordsmith those. And we did get a letter, written testimony, that was delivered today. I don't know if the applicant has seen this, probably not. This is from a citizen who's concerned about it. I believe that you will have a copy of this letter. It's from Diane Dillard. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that. That's been delivered to the record. And I don't know what else to say. I think it's, unless you have any questions for me, we can go on with testimony.
Does the conditional use go with the lessee? Does it, after their lease is up, does that conditional use go away?
Well, typically the land use permit will stay with the land. And so if CCMH has the lease and then another entity wants to take over but continue the use, technically, you know, it could continue.
Okay,
So it's not necessarily tied to the leasing.
right, okay. All right, could we hear from the applicant?
My name's Glenn Miller. I'm the architect.
Very closely into that mic.
Oh.
Thank you.
My name's Glenn Miller, and I'm the architect at G.A. Miller Architecture. And I'm the applicant, but I'd like to, if it's all right with everybody up front here, to defer the comments over to Julia Jackson, who's the executive director for CCMH, and I think she'd be able to explain the intentions of the project in much more detail than I could.
Is this good for recording purposes? Okay, great. Yes, thank you. I would love to explain a little bit more in general and then mostly answer any questions and concerns. So Columbia Community Mental Health is a nonprofit organization that is contracted by Oregon Health Authority as the main behavioral health provider for the county, and as such designated as the local mental health authority. So we have kind of become also a tri-county hub for certain services that are lacking in Tillamook and Clatsop, as well as other local counties that have overflow. But primarily, we intend to serve Columbia County. So when in the application we say that this facility, for example, would be a tri-region provider, it's because we don't always have enough folks from within our county to fill those beds. So we are intending to take what we are currently doing, which is the 16-bed residential facility, and place it in this new location because our facility on 4th Street and Columbia Boulevard, kind of across from the park there, it's a residential, it's a house, and there's very few administrative offices. We have folks crammed to 4 or 5 to a room. We have grown adults on bunk beds who have equilibrium issues because of post-acute withdrawal. It's a very non-therapeutic environment. And when I first took this position a year ago, one of my immediate missions of passion was to create a better quality residential and detox experience for our county. I feel like it should be a place where you would want to send your loved ones, and that you do send we have to acknowledge we've got friends and family members, neighbors who are using these services. This is not, some alien folks that we don't know or have not met. So we would want this environment to be one that would be comfortable for our friends and family. So in doing so, we really evaluated that we needed a larger place that would provide folks with their individual rooms, and have administrative space and therapeutic spaces for counseling and family therapy, and really expand the continuum of services so that we can decrease recidivism, meaning the revolving door of patients coming in and out of treatment, as opposed to actually getting better and being able to stand on their own 2 feet. The detox program, which we are also currently providing at our Pathways facility off 4th Street, is is expanding to 16 beds. So right now in the county, we only offer 9 beds, but it would open up for additional folks. We are also, with this facility, going to be able to allow for walk-in admission. So right now, folks who are needing immediate detox support are instead sleeping on the streets, or taken to the jail, or taken down to Portland to hospitals, which is costing police time and transporting and resources that we can't spend in that fashion. So we would be able to serve folks on a walk-in basis and serve more folks. This facility would be under 24/7 sight and sound, meaning that none of the residents, whether they're in detox or residential, would be allowed to go anywhere without staff, and they would not leave the immediate front of our premises if they were going out for fresh air or on that lawn area. This 24/7 supervision is extremely important because, again, right now there are folks suffering with substance use issues that are on their own in the community, in our parks. So this is, if anything, a much safer and more supervised option for them. Also, in terms of smoking, it's a non-smoking facility. I get a lot of complaints about that from my staff and clients, but I have no intention of changing that. Tobacco is something that, just like any other substance, is used to manage as a way to numb out and manage feelings, and it's a gateway drug. And I could go on and on and on, right, about tobacco cessation and the importance of that, but I would be completely hypocritical if I didn't then make it a tobacco-free program and campus. So if anything, I think you're going to have more smokers from surrounding businesses, from the staff and the clients, than you would at my facility, because my staff aren't allowed to be anywhere within sight of the campus, because we want to promote that that recovery lifestyle for our clients. And they're also not allowed to smell like smoke when they come back to the facility. So it would be a very clean and tobacco-free campus, so you wouldn't have to worry about that. We also are very responsible of the clients who are coming to our campus. So if they're coming to residential, they're being escorted and they're being admitted in a very orderly and uniform fashion. So there would not be random folks showing up. For example, in Portland, there are some centers similar to what we do that folks are probably associating in their minds, to where there are crowds of people out front. Central City Concern, for example. I don't know if anyone has seen that, but Central City Concern, typically they have this admit time, and then there are lines and lines of homeless folks who are sitting, outside the property. This would not be that type of situation. We're rural. It's a different environment. There's always a care coordinator assigned to admissions, and if we needed to take a walk-in admit somewhere else where they could be served, then we transport them to where they need to go. So we would not allow lingering out front in front of the property. That would be a risk to the clients that we were trying to stabilize. In terms of, should I go into responding to the letter at this time?
It's your opportunity. So
Okay.
as the applicant, you have this opportunity, and there's, people can speak in favor, neutral, and opposition. Then you will
Yes.
also have an opportunity to rebut.
Okay.
But if you want to rebut the letter now, that's, there's nothing that says you can't.
Right, and I think it will just continue to explain the purpose for the center. So I think that this citizen brings up a lot of good questions and concerns that just go to show how folks need a lot more education about the service that we provide and the program we provide. So I think it's an excellent opportunity to do so. One of which that I thought was interesting was it says, our city has in the past not allowed for this type of facility near a public school. I think what she's referring to is sex offender treatment, perhaps, that registered sex offenders aren't allowed within public schools or within daycares or within parks even. And so I'm not sure if there has been maybe something less formal that has typically not allowed this type of facility near a public school. But just to be clear, we are not a sex offender treatment. We do not accept registered sex offenders. And so they would, while we can't and and don't provide background checks on everyone coming in. We are usually having folks at our residential facility who are on furlough from the jails, meaning that we know what their criminal history is. Medical detox, for example, there could be a scenario to where someone is lying about being a registered sex offender. But do we purport to provide registered sex offender treatment? No, we do not. And if we know about it, then we cannot serve them. But again, they are also under 24/7 sight and sound, and so the risk is managed as well. Also, I know just in general the concern about these people being near children, infants and small children. They're never out of sight and sound. There would be no reason for them to go all the way over in front of those businesses. I could see only if a parent or staff, as part of their program, were bringing the children in front of our property. Would they have any brief contact? Again, never without a staff member present, but our staff and program would never be over on that side in front of that facility. Let's see. Oh, and then I thought this was interesting. So the city's goal, this applicant says, or this citizen says, the city's goal for economic development includes attracting businesses and activity in the city to improve our tax bases. And she's absolutely correct. If we are going to improve this city, right, I would think some of the attractiveness would be addressing the folks who are very sick and ill, who are in the parks or on the streets after hours, who are causing safety concerns. And I understand where the stigma comes with mental health and substance use is they are a high-risk population. They aren't thinking right. Their behavior is erratic and out of control. However, if we don't provide these essential services, they are still going to be sick on the streets. So is it better to have them in this treatment environment, controlled environment, or to not have that service, and then for the overall city and communities and residential areas to be impacted by those folks? And again, this is assuming that that they don't have, loved ones that are themselves needing care. I think that in the end, we have to first prioritize the mental health and just behavioral health and well-being of our community if we intend to address business. It's the hierarchy of essential need. We cannot be well economically if we are not well and in mental health and taking care of our population. So that's all I have, but I would definitely love questions or comments and concerns.
Questions? Are you keeping the 4th Street facility?
We are keeping the 4th Street facility, and what we would like to do is have a continuum of care. So we would like to repurpose it into sober living. So parents who are in recovery, similar to the Iron Tribe model, if anyone's familiar with that, but parents who are in recovery, it would be transitional housing support, so extremely low and affordable rent, and they're living in a community of folks in recovery, no substance use allowed on the property, those kinds of things. That would be another phase.
I think it's interesting you're using the old hospital, now you want to get into the new old hospital.
We're behavioral health. We can never afford new stuff, so we're like, who's got the hand-me-down that will fit in? I know I saw Legacy's new building and I'm like, oh, I'm in the wrong field. Or it shows our priorities too, I guess, as a nation. But anyway, that's another topic for a different council.
You have one statement here, under 24-hour sight and sound supervision by staff, unless they leave against medical advice.
Correct, and we have a very strong relationship with law enforcement, and again, many folks are on furlough, so they want to get as far away from the facility as possible if they're leaving against medical advice. So they're not going to be lingering anywhere in the vicinity, because usually if someone leaves, then we're calling their probation officer, or if they're unsafe, they're leaving in an unsafe manner, we've alerted the crisis team. We've called, so there are safety measures in place for that. But that's true. I wanted to point out that someone could walk out the door, and at which case they could walk in any direction.
What is your actual recovery rate?
Well, so that's a very common question for the field in general, and you'll have to be a little bit more specific. Do you mean the number of folks who return and for additional treatment because it didn't work the first time? Do you mean the folks who go back to substance use, of which how would we collect that data because we're not calling and getting that information with them or staying connected? So it's all about like what data specifically that you're interested in.
I'd like to know what the
Repeat customers.
yes,
Okay. For which? For medical detox or residential?
either one or both.
Let's do both. So medical detox is probably the higher level of recidivism. Folks, typically we have in any given year probably about 30% recidivism as opposed to unique clients, as opposed to 100% unique clients. In residential, it's a little bit less, but that's not to say that client we served isn't getting residential treatment somewhere else, which is data that we don't have. So even though they might only have received treatment once from us, I don't know if they've received it elsewhere in a different county or location. One of the things that we have done in terms of reducing recidivism is we've actually lengthened the program stay, and we've incorporated level systems for transitional support. So it used to be as little as 30 days they could get out, and really 30 days is not enough to really cement the treatment process. So we've created it as a required 90-day stay, and we have level 1 through 4. So level 1, they're on complete blackout. They can't even communicate with family or friends until they get their head in the game and wrapped around what they need in treatment. Up to level 4, which is they're being released to family and friends for overnight stays. They're going to job interviews, and they've got that transitional support to where they're actually preparing for life, for reentry life. And none of that was happening before. So those types of things make a huge difference. Also, when I came on, sight and sound supervision wasn't happening. So that's been something I've put in place because there was a lot of sneaking substances and, just misbehavior.
I have an architectural question. So what's up on the board on the screen is we've got one entrance with the portico chair like thing, and then the other lawn like thing. So if you could go to the architectural drawing. That one. Or is that no the that one, the detail one.
Yeah.
So we had the Porto Conchera kind of entrance, and we had the other entrance. What's kind of the main entrance? And you said something about the residents using the green space out front. Was that the green we saw in that picture?
Correct. Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
So where's the entrance? Kind of like two entrances there. That's the entrance to your main facility. What's the other one for? Yeah.
That's intake.
You want to take it?
Just
The
explain
one that the
more.
mouse is on right
Yeah.
there, that is to the detox facility, but it's a public entrance that does go down the hall to the other leased space.
Yeah.
But that is the entrance that detox residents would use. And then the other one is the entrance for residential.
Okay.
And the other one is out to that grassy area. Who's the tenant?
There's no one there. That's where Legacy was.
The one that the mouse is on is the grassy area for the residential. And if detox clients were transported, they potentially would be able to use that grassy area. But essentially, we're limiting our recreation and loitering or whatnot outside to that grassy area.
Are you allowing for dining area?
Yes. So where you see what we should have done is added more of those small little tables, but where you see the small little tables, that great open space against the wall with the 3 admin offices and meditation room, there's going to be kind of the cabinets for dishware, clean dishware, and then space for the used dishware, and then more residential dining space. So that's going to be kind of the dining area and then the living area in that other nook.
So can I ask,
you show 3 tables with chairs.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean that you're saying there would be more tables and chairs there, or some other amenities that would allow people to sit and eat?
There would have to be more tables and chairs because that only serves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
So how many do you anticipate in a full house?
We have 16 residents, and then assuming a few staff would sit with them, but not many. We usually have 2 staff on at any given shift. We don't feed all of our staff. That's not a program expense. So at any given time, we would have 16 residents and 1 or 2 staff sitting with them.
Thank you.
So that grassy area is pretty wide open when you drive into the complex. Jacob, you were talking about screening. What were you talking about screening in the parking lot? Or for the green grassy spot?
The screening, as discussed in the staff report, is on the southwest edge of the site. It's looking at the site at a grander scale.
Oh, okay.
Because we have laws that say, all right, well, if we have a parking lot larger than 4 spaces, it's supposed to be screened, which means you have vegetation that softens the visual impact.
No, but the
And-
parking lot, nothing to do with the facility use of the outside space.
Yeah, there's nothing in the report that discusses it.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that you can't consider that.
Would you want that?
What I want, what was the question?
A screening of the green space?
Screening.
Would they feel comfortable?
Oh, you mean for
they're in full front of
confidentiality
everybody?
purposes? Well, I mean, so right now, we have that park across from Pathways
Yeah.
that they use in kind of the same fashion. That's why one of the things that we do is we're not going to post a big sign, drug and alcohol residential treatment, because then you would drive by and be like, oh, there's people receiving drugs. So we can't do that. But folks kind of know and acknowledge that there's always going to be some risk to confidentiality if they're sitting out in the open. Staff don't have any kind of signage on them that would also say drug and alcohol counselor with this client. So we're used to it now, and we are not going to require, and we're not going to put in any kind of screening in that green area. At most, we'll probably put some attractive benching, maybe.
If you could scroll back to the site plan, the overall site map.
Looks like there's looks like there's a courtyard, but it's not abutting your. Okay.
Yeah, there are some
There-
courtyards in the middle of the building.
Yeah, there was a comment as you drive in, you wouldn't be able to see the people out of the open area. This is the main entry off of Howard, and the green area that we're talking about is up here. So when you come in, you're not going to see it. This projection of the building kind of serves as a natural screen anyway from the main entry. We're coming in here. Here's all the other tenant areas here, and if there are people outside in this green area, it's going to be up here. So you're not going to really drive in and see people in that green area anyway.
Except for the other entrance.
Well, yeah,
It's
maybe
really-
this other entrance
People
here.
think of that as the main
But
entrance to the
it's-
complex.
Your line of sight is going to be kind of more directed that way.
Okay.
This is a little bit just naturally screened just by the layout of the parking and the approaches.
Okay.
If you come in that Y Street entrance, you're not going to be driving to their facility.
That's true. That's
You're-
true.
You're having parking spaces.
No one's going to go to that area. There's no urgent care. There's nothing to go to there.
No,
You're right.
it's totally,
Well, DHS
You-
uses that.
yeah,
Parking
but
there.
the same area, well, on the, across from the,
Right.
and then people drive around to the DMV.
Yeah, I'm just
I noticed
going
today I
there.
went through there.
Very visible.
And you notice that inner courtyard, you were mentioning that. So we actually don't have access to it from our
Do you?
locations. It's not that it's been communicated that it's off limits. It's just that in looking at the plans, I've concluded that we won't be using that courtyard. And so that's something to consider if anyone had issues with the courtyard space.
Well, the reason I was confused is the color-coded thing in our packet shows that part of your facility abutting it, so. But the other portions, the architectural portions don't show that. So.
Well, I would think you'd need some outside space.
We do, and we have plenty with that grassy area. The courtyard is just, it's very difficult to get. In fact, I'm not even sure how to get to it from our spaces. I don't think there's a, we have to go through someone else's business to access the courtyard. So that was one of the reasons I liked this facility, was because of that grassy area out front, because they do need to get out and breathe some fresh air and whatnot. And I like the fact that it wasn't right next to another business, and that as Glenn was noting, that you really would be heading the wrong have missed your turn to be driving in front of it to go to the businesses on this side or to DHS on the other side. So not that it won't happen, and we have to acknowledge that risk to confidentiality, but I think it would be minimal.
That's where the drawing is incorrect there.
Yeah, Mr. Terry, I'm Fred Hines, the manager of the ownership group. I drew the drawing.
Okay.
That was more of a hope and desire that they would lease all of that.
Oh. Okay.
That's Lavin imaging.
Okay.
The old legacy Lavin imaging space.
Yeah.
Was not, Glenn's drawing is correct, which does not include everything.
I got it. That's just why I got a little confused. Well, that's right, it's a courtyard.
So you took the pen is mightier than the sword a little too far on that, huh?
I think,
Mightier than the pocketbook.
This corridor here would serve as not only main entry here for this portion of CCMH, but it would also serve as a corridor. This is another corridor, and this would be future tenant lease space. So it serves as a dual entry.
All right. No more questions? All right. Thank you very much for testimony. All right. Do we have testimony in support of this application?
Yes, my name's Fred Hines, as I mentioned, I'm the manager of the LLC.
Come up to the
Fred, yeah,
microphone,
please make sure you get recorded there.
My name's Fred Hines. I'm the manager of Columbia Commons LLC, the property owner. And we've been the owners for about 16 years here. And what I wanted to address is we've got 4 other tenants. We have we have the state of Oregon's 50-some thousand feet. We've got DMV, DHS, as well as employment security. Used to be a nonprofit associated with them, but now it's all employment. So if you look at all the yellow, I guess it's yellow areas, which completely encompass the space all the way around where the CCMH facility is. It's all state of Oregon. Frankly, Julia can address it better, but there's crossover between DHS and CCMH clients as well. But and we're not ignoring the other 4 tenants. If you look, we have 4 other tenants. We have a massage clinic. We have a daycare on the bottom. The drawing we're all looking at on the bottom, if you start at the on the left side, that's the 1,800 square foot massage clinic, and then you've got about a 6,800 square foot facility for the daycare, and the one big open space on the to the right on the corner, that's for Senius, who's been there for 10, 11 years, doing the kidney dialysis. And frankly, some of their clients need to go see Julia because they're having kidney dialysis because of the drug usage that they continue to do. And then you have Will Moore, who's the dentist, who's a pediatric dentist. Will and I have spoke multiple times, including a couple times today, and I've been addressing his concerns with the potential use. He's not coming tonight because he's got he's satisfied with that we're going to handle and mitigate any issues that he may have, as well as his wife's pregnant and very pregnant. But and so we're not, frankly, we're going to work with all of our tenants as well as Julia to make sure that everybody can coexist harmoniously, because we want everybody to be successful. And we're not, we're landlords, we're not program operators, but we work with Department of Corrections, we work with methadone clinics, we work with a lot of different tenants, and make sure that we have facilities that are safe and sound, and you know nobody's rights are being abused. So that's basically our position on it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone else in support? All right, do we have anybody that wants to speak neutral testimony? Seeing none. Any testimony in opposition of this application? Please come up. No opposition, okay. No rebuttal?
Yeah.
Did we, everybody hear me on that? Okay. So,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
so we have this one letter in opposition, and that's been entered, so that's right.
That's already been rebutted.
All right, Commission have any other questions on what's going on? Okay. At this time, it's the close of the public record. Okay. Hearing no further questions from the commission and no further responses from the staff, and the public record is closed. This matter is returned to the table for deliberations and oral discussion. Decision. Okay.
Discuss.
Discuss.
I don't have anything.
You don't.
My questions were answered.
Let's see.
I would
Please.
say that I am favorably impressed by what I've heard,
I am too.
and I have no outstanding concerns that haven't been mentioned.
Same,
Same?
same.
Yeah, I have no concerns, and I live close to the 4th Street one, so.
Yeah, I live close to the 4th Street also, and would like to see that grassy area. They need to get out. And I guess if we did some planting or something, or define more of that area that they want to use. You know, benches, like she said, but maybe some landscaping and that sort of thing.
But you want to leave the grass, that gives them volleyball areas. They play volleyball down in Godfrey Park now.
The record is closed, but
Go ahead.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
rebuttal.
are you talking about the,
We're closed, I'm sorry for that.
oh,
Well, you can reopen it and just make sure. If
well,
you
I can answer any questions if you want.
If you reopen it, you want to give everybody a chance to talk. Of course, not a lot of there's not a lot of takers, so it's probably not such a big deal.
Okay, that's not.
so
I think we're
we
good.
can't
We're good.
ask
We're
it.
good. I
Technicalities.
mean, we could ask questions all day long. I don't want to make more work for you. Okay. That was my concern. I think the only other concern would be make sure the public services, the police and such, and they'll be aware of it. But, you know, that's more added work for them around with all these other services that they've got to take care of.
It seems like the location is easy for them to get to, so they can respond quickly.
Yeah, yeah.
Goes Highway 30.
Well, since Legacy moved out, it's sort of natural, I think.
I think it's great that somebody's moving in so quickly.
Very definitely.
Good for the landlord.
But it should make it
Yeah.
easier for the police because they have somewhere they can take someone that's
Yeah.
It's a much
needing
needed
detox
facility.
immediately.
So to address Jacob's suggestions, that's really only things that were, besides that we're
Yeah.
acting on, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything?
So then, for condition 2A, you know, there's some suggested language. Since the applicant or owner is open to trash enclosures, which will be good. It'll modernize the site even more. Basically, the part that's highlighted and it says "or all trash" for the commercial complex, we'll just say for the new proposed uses and existing uses.
Yeah, that's the question I had. So you're saying for the entire facility, everything, everywhere, enclosures.
Yes.
Have to do it for all of them.
You wouldn't have to. You can.
Opportunity to make them do it.
So, if you're concerned about nexus, if you want to kind of hold on to those legal terms, then you could say, you know, the trash area that serves this particular tenant, you know, be screened in accordance with all of our stuff. And then you recommend the rest of the site be screened as well.
At
So-
no cost.
Well, the recommendation, yeah, it would be at their cost, and then you're trying to advance that, but you're not forcing them into it, and that's protecting you from the nexus issue.
So I have problems with the word there. It's too vague for me. So this particular tenant will be responsible for their trash enclosure, and other people will be responsible for trash enclosures near their business. Is that what we're actually saying?
Yeah,
No.
I mean, from a practical standpoint, it would probably be the landowner working with them. But the way this conversation is going is that, and the condition wouldn't say who does it. Usually we don't care who does it. We just want to make sure it's done. And it's just a matter of the tenant and the owner, working that out. So the condition could read that, the trash area be updated to our standards for this tenant, and the planning commission recommends that
Dumpster.
the other ones be updated as well. And that's not binding, it's just a happy go feel, well, it'd be nice to modernize the whole thing.
So
Is
you're,
there gonna be a new trash area?
There's already a trash area there, it's just open, it's not screened.
so you have these red marks. Are these the only existing dumpsters?
Yeah, so this is where Legacy's old dumpsters were. And then the childcare facility and a couple others are over here next to the residential development that we should see. And then the state ones are over here. So they're in 3 different locations
At this
on the
time.
site currently.
Third one.
That's not that many.
Yeah, these
Oh, no, that would be a plus for the site, I would.
I
because
agree.
the-
And there's not a lot of other opportunities to get the other tenants to do it. So if
No, I mean,
the
this is
applicant's
your
willing,
opportunity
I
to-
don't think you have to worry about a nexus issue.
No.
And I think you should just do it.
Landscaping, how far would that be?
Yeah, where you screen landscape.
So
Screening from what?
the from the residential property to the southwest site. So basically, condition 2B could read new landscaping and screening plan to screen the southwest site or side. Excuse me.
Is there any dirt around these? It's all asphalt.
No, there's dirt. Yeah, there's perimeter
remove them.
landscaping.
Okay,
Goodness.
I don't know where the dirt came from.
Could you bring that plan up and show that?
Did you bring in dirt?
There's a lot next door.
There's
Good.
plenty next door.
Yeah, we got a lot of dirt.
In 3 years, they got a lot of dirt.
So Russ, that's kind of the area that we're talking about. That's what it looks like now, and it's kind of just devoid of screening.
Is that the new subdivision that's gonna?
Yeah.
be there?
So that or that fence.
Well, that's
is
the commercial.
The line.
What
That's the
about-
commercial lot there.
Yeah, how about the commercial lot? 'Cause
That's-
because
that's
if
the
you're
commercial
facing
lot.
Commercial lots.
That's the commercial lot.
What do you mean by commercial lot? What do you?
It's not the residential lot. It's that more
Those-
This is
residential.
the boundary between. So the residential lot is where my cursor is. It's over here. It's behind this little fence. I know it's really hard to see, but there's an orange-looking fence line.
So does that orange fence line, that is the boundary marker of this property?
Approximately.
I thought that next to Howard, between Howard and wherever that,
So that
Street
I'm
is
just
that
showing you
commercial?
photos. So that area is this location on the map. Down here.
oh, I thought you were putting to a triangle next to Howard.
There's an area along here that's not landscaped or screened as well.
That was
But-
that picture, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
So we would be there, all turning the corner and going
that's
out.
the, that's the commercial space I was talking about.
Yeah, that's,
Oh, I see.
Yes,
what you're
that
saying.
is
That's
one of
the
the,
lot.
the
Okay.
commercial lot
I
of that
misunderstood
subdivision.
what you were
yeah.
saying. Okay.
Because I misunderstood what you were
Yes.
pointing.
Yes. Okay.
So you're talking about against the residential lot, basically that,
That's the idea.
the left
yeah.
side.
Mhm.
Okay.
No.
Definitely needs to be done sometime,
Okay.
but now,
Yeah,
Do it.
right there,
Who wants to read it?
right there,
Where are
right by them. No.
so what does everybody think about that screening? You just said okay?
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
It's pretty void, I
fine.
mean,
And it wouldn't take a whole lot.
Okay.
right, and it would be required if the subdivision was, or if this project was new.
Yes.
You're talking
yeah.
of like street tree density?
Well, typically what we say for parking lot and landscaping is a variety of trees and shrubs of varying heights to visually soften the hardscape.
That's
And if you want to say it like that, that's okay with me.
It's more specific than just screening.
It's more specific and also better
Yeah.
quality of screen than you could have gotten with bamboo shades.
Piece of plywood stuck up with a stick.
Screens.
Okay, I think,
Well,
we
just make a motion.
satisfied ourselves.
So basically making no changes?
Well, Jacob just said how he wants to say the screen. That was
Okay.
that, so, we could second the motion.
Well, maybe make the motion with Jacob's change on the trash screening.
So I want to be. So the discussion has been the trash, addressing the trash enclosures all the
Yes.
way around, and then vegetation along that southwest side to visually soften the hardscape.
Yes,
Okay, I just want to make
We're-
sure
we're good with
we're
that.
on the same page.
Someone needs to make a motion.
Okay.
So you
made the
did.
Make the motion.
I second.
Jacob's changes. Yeah.
I second it.
All right, second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Nay? Hearing none? All right.
Motion for signature.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay?
So what that was, just so you understand, is they have two options to sign the final decision. They can wait a month and review it as a group to make sure I didn't slip some new stuff in there, make sure they agree with my language, or they either trust me and trust the chairperson that I'm going to call them up, hey, the final decision, and you want to sign it? So then they sign it a lot quicker and the decision goes out faster. And so by them having a motion for signature, we'll probably prepare it tomorrow, get it signed, get the decision out. So you can move on to the next step for your building permits.
Thanks for the trees and shrubs.
All righty. Okay, acceptance agenda. All right. Site design review.
Yep.
Bye, Jim.
But well, don't all go.
Now we'll be lonely.
As we don't have a show anymore. Oh, we're still on TV.
Oh, that's
we
right.
better- oh,
You're so unloved.
10 million viewers out there still waiting for your
thought-
next words here,
I
Russ.
thought these were gonna be all oppositions. I was sort of,
Yeah, I
think they were, the three ladies from the back all worked at the agency.
oh,
Yeah, well, one of the people,
so they stacked
the
the room.
three.
one of them was
The
Monkey Tree. Yeah,
I
because
thought-
remember she was before you.
Well, she's satisfied, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, this could have been like Victory Outreach,
Yes.
which some of you remember. That I
That
think
is-
that's what Diane
That
Dillard's
is
referring to.
a whole different.
Oh, we'll talk
I don't
about
remember
it. It was a
Okay.
crazy case.
Okay, site design review. Outdoor storage business expansion, Old Portland Road. Who is that?
That is so. There's that one. So there's the old Ralph's Wrecking Yard, and then there's the other fenced area that's been fenced for a long time. And the person bought the smaller one, established an outdoor storage area. So if you drive by, you'll see it at Storage Pal. The property next door had approval, land use approval, but it never went beyond that for a marijuana production facility.
Yeah.
Or was it processing?
It was a grow facility.
And they didn't get approval from the Oregon Department of State Lands either.
No, they didn't, or an Army Corps. So they ended up selling the property, and the person who has Storage Pal bought it and is planning to expand their open storage facility.
And I'll have to recuse myself from voting on that because I issued a no state permit required letter for that property from the Department of State Lands.
There's a small wetland on it.
It was not jurisdictional.
Just a minute, we don't have to vote on these, do we? Oh, I guess we've done them in blanket,
Yeah.
to accept them all.
So that's what that is. So if you drive by there, you'll see that some vegetation has been removed, and you'll see some strings
Yeah.
stretched out
Yeah.
because they'll, pin in a fence and stuff.
There were actually 2 wetlands identified. There weren't wetlands.
Okay, also, site design review on Milton Way, expansion of equipment, storage and parking area and fencing.
Yeah, most of that expansion and fencing has happened.
Is that
This is for Pelham cutting.
Pelham? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've been kind of observing that site for several years.
Obviously from the statement.
For several years. And they came in and talked to us about having a temporary office, and that didn't work out. But we talked about, well, there's some of this history, and our hope was to address, because the things that have happened aren't the end of the world, but some of it requires permits and wasn't done perfectly. And we were hoping that they were going to come in with their office, and we just fix some of that stuff in the past with that. And one of their people came in and asked about putting a bunch of new fill, and I said, well, God, we really need to kind of back up and correct this other stuff. And somehow they misheard what I said, and we put a stop work order on while they were putting more fill in. And, but we talked to them and said, okay, here's where we're at. And they were really cooperative, so it was just an educational thing.
Need to get on your own city crew about dumping.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm from Clasco. I like talking to loggers.
Yeah.
Needed a field trip.
Okay,
Yeah.
acceptance of both.
Can we vote on these separately so I can
Yeah.
vote on one of them?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
okay, so you
I
want,
just want to keep a clean separation.
Well, that's good.
Okay,
okay, so you
item
want
A.
the 1899 Old Portland,
I recuse myself.
I'm making a motion, we accept it.
Okay, second, okay, and it's been made, second, and all in favor, say
Aye. Aye.
nay. Okay. B,
Okay, now we'll make a motion for the 526, 530, and
Sorry, Jenny.
now you're in.
Well, what's the motion?
second that we accept it.
Accept it? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay? All right, it passes. Okay, moving on, planning director decisions. Okay, any comments on these?
Nope.
Okay.
I should note that last lot line adjustment, I jumped the gun. That is not something we approved. Not that it's messing with anything, it just got put on the agenda before final approval. So
Well, then it'll show up next month also.
maybe,
Maybe.
we'll see. They might withdraw, so.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
So you want,
Sykes.
it doesn't change anything except that it was on the agenda. It doesn't require action.
It's related to the Bailey subdivision.
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
Yarmouth,
a lot of changes.
Yarmouth doesn't go all the way through to Sykes Road, but the properties butt each other. Is that?
No, remember the BPA easement, and then there was that little tract of land
Yeah,
on that's the area of discussion for this.
okay.
I don't remember, but
And that's just a lot line adjustment for them to make it work for the,
Yeah, but the county, it would create a multi-jurisdictional land, and the county says they want to consent to annex before they'll say okay to a lot line adjustment. So that's what's kind of
got your work.
throwing a monkey wrench in things for them.
Yeah. At farmer's market, the temporary use permit 1 year, that's exciting. I think he can bring some people. I was talking to him last weekend and, yeah.
He certainly seems knowledgeable on the farmer's market world, but we'll see how that
Well,
transpires.
Yeah,
The gravel area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that because it's only gonna be food. It's not gonna be trinkets and everything like that. And that's, then they can go after some grant money. I think it's through Legacy or whatever, maybe not. But, that's available for helping all food farmers markets too, so, yeah. It's a good deal. Great. Okay, move on. Activity reports.
I don't remember what I said, but if you have any questions on it, I'll probably remember.
Okay, let's see. I missed so much.
Do you actually print the activity report?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Keep in mind.
I save it.
Interesting.
I read
'Cause
it and I have them all saved.
It took me a while. I thought, well, I don't have the, and I.
Yeah, sure.
Because I get these earlier, so, yeah.
Someone reads them.
Yeah. Talk to the-
That's a lot of grants.
No, I read them. I just file them under St. Helens.
Yeah, the lagoon report purposing, that's a hotbed now, isn't it? So,
I came to that meeting.
the
I just-
private one in Portland?
No, to the public one where the lagoon was under discussion.
Oh, the
City council.
meeting.
Yeah, the last city council meeting, she was there.
And there was, nobody was aggressive or hostile, but there was quite a lot of attention and concern in that area.
Well, I like the Art, I don't know his name.
Oh,
Yeah, he was verbal and you could really understand where he's coming from. And I thought that was interesting to hear him rather than just, we like it or we don't like it. I mean, he went
yeah.
into detail, which is nice. But, yeah, hopefully we'll get more involved with that as the planning commission goes on, but we don't know. Okay, I guess my checking balances are, you're good. Good. Okay. All right, next meeting, July 11th.
Yep, and we do have a meeting, housing needs analysis.
Oh, really? Have we done that?
Well, we went through it. Now it's time to go through the adoption process. So you know it. It should be easy.
Kind of like the Riverfront Connector plan. Hopefully, at this point, you kind of know the plan. So it's just the hearing.
For your
All right.
information.
Oh, for your informations.
You have anything?
Okay.
Anybody? Information?
I have information.
Yes, sir.
I was waiting to see if there was a question at the end of talking about the last city council meeting. But there was kind of just conversation. What the Spotlight printed or alleged was not entirely true. It wasn't, we didn't even get answers. That's why it was executive session. It was open to the press. The press chose not to attend. We asked them questions about the alleged, what can we do with the lagoon property? We asked them, answer all these questions. They didn't even have answers yet. We just asked them, here's all our list of questions. Now go do your work. Is essentially all that the meeting was. There was no information shared, no plan shared, nothing voted on, nothing decided. And so it definitely fits the informational executive session type thing. And people have asked me, well, why does it have to be executive session? Every time that lagoon gets brought up in this meeting, things go sideways and into the ditch, and the truth and the facts are lost. and the meeting, I don't know if there's 18 to 20 people, all experts, all prepared, taking their notes about this is what we have to answer before we know what to do at all. And so that's all we are, is in the fact-finding stage. Nobody said yes or no to anything. And that didn't make the paper, unfortunately. And just as a side note, after the meeting that Catherine was here, but you didn't testify, you just listened.
That's correct.
Couple of the three people that testified stayed until after the meeting and were outside with the mayor for over an hour and left happy.
Oh, good.
So they got their questions answered and got their suspicions
Speaker Rowley.
eased. So it's not a matter of us or them. It's like, let's do what's right for our community and get all the facts. And so the next step is to have those panel meetings where we have experts that all those questions will be answered.
Can I ask if one particular question I'm thinking of was asked? That are they going to inspect or do research to determine if the lagoon currently is lined?
Current conditions,
Is lined?
they'll have to have all those findings.
Okay. All right, good.
All those findings, earthquake findings, floodplain findings, geologist report, all of that stuff was high on the list. And, you know, my thing is always, I've listened to one too many moms in here talking about the risks to our health over the last 50 years. And says, please, now that we don't have a smokestack there, don't bring anything back that reopens that can of worms. So I definitely have to have that litmus test for myself.
So my silence was because I needed to be silent, but as a person, I highly resent the notion of filling the lagoon with Portland hazardous waste. That is, I think, the worry from some of the neighbors.
Right,
who are
that's a stiff climb.
adjacent.
It's a stiff climb for every single member of that council. So, but the flip side is since the original time that we brought this up, now Armstrong is closed and they have cleanup. I can't remember the pronunciation of Pulpin Talbot has cleanup. There's cleanup right here that has to happen. And it seems like it makes more sense to clean up what we have and move forward. You know, all that is part of the conversation. It's not just Portland's garbage can. You know, it's a bigger conversation, and it's a bigger conversation of, we've talked about all different scenarios, and they have to come back to us about what is the cost effective and most feasible, because some things that have been put out there might not even be possible.
Cost effective and feasible are two, and potential hazardous to health is.
Well, all of that,
third
risk
of
is a
that has
factor.
to be.
All risks are part of the
Okay.
factor. Yeah, I mean, risk, just go walking home tonight, I'm gonna have a risk. So every action has a risk. And so that's all goes into the feasibility. Are you willing to make the sacrifice for this? And right now, they haven't showed us anything that says we're willing to make any sacrifice.
Who are the they you're referring to?
The experts, people that tell us about soil quality, water quality,
So
how
it's
you
not
feel
a con-
things.
It's not a conversation between St. Helens and Portland who wants to dump crap in.
No, it's not between St. Helens and Portland at all.
Well, I think
Yeah, there's no Portland people even in the room. It's
state of Oregon.
people that I'm sure Dan Carey works with.
Yeah, but definitely St. Helens being
Richard,
courted
sure.
by the people that want to move that sludge out of town, because you can bring it here for 1/5 the cost of sending it to Boardman. So, good for Portland, and
Yeah.
we don't, you know, you'll get millions and millions of dollars, but you know, it's I think it's the public is feeling like they don't really have enough yet.
They haven't answered the question.
You haven't answered, those people haven't answered the question. They just got a $500,000 contract.
And part of that is for public outreach.
Public
I think
outreach.
Right now, there's a lot of misinformation that will be addressed as we develop a public outreach plan,
Right.
and that's in the works.
So what kind of time horizon, and we've lived here a long time, and this has been under discussion for many years. So from
Yeah.
Not that many.
Not many.
more than two,
Only since I've been.
Well,
Since I've
Probably
not many, honey.
Probably about two,
I think
yeah.
longer than that.
yeah.
2.5 maybe.
It depends on, you know, it's been on the table for a while.
Well, until we owned the veneer and the white paper site, it wasn't even a conversation. And when we still needed the capacity of the lagoon, it wasn't a conversation. So that's how I know it hasn't been more than 3 years at the longest.
Thank you.
Yeah, because we wouldn't have, when the white paper is still using the lagoon, we wouldn't be talking about changing the lagoon.
A project of this scale is gonna be decades long.
Oh, I'm certain that that's
Yeah.
true,
Okay,
but
I just wanted you to,
us having our cleanup taking decades is fine, but us receiving Portland's ick is not fine with me, or
To me, taking a couple of years to get the facts
is worthwhile.
is worthwhile.
I agree.
Even if we get all the facts and we decide not right now. Even if we decide this isn't the right timing for our community. At least now we have something to stand on.
Yeah.
Up until now, we're just guessing.
good.
Yeah,
I'm
it's just guessing.
Excellent. You're on a good path.
And we don't want to just guess.
No,
Because right now, if I had to guess, my answer would be no. So I'd rather have facts and have a good answer.
well, no could turn out to be a good answer, but
never know.
it's a better answer if you have all the facts.
Yeah.
I have a question about that. So the waterfront connector project, you know how you had a couple of people from the public or from residents? Are you going to do something similar to that where residents can be involved in the discussions or questions?
like an advisory.
type
Yeah,
thing?
I haven't seen the public engagement plan yet. It's still in progress, so I don't know. I would hope that we have something like that. I think it's a good method, but I don't know if that's right. The consultants we're using just hired a public engagement specialist
Okay.
who is assigned to this project, and she has worked on large infrastructure projects like this in other communities, so she has experience with it. So I feel like we're in good hands, but we'll find out.
I still would like to see, I know we're advisory to the council, but I'd like to see the planning commission get more involved in that project. And a little homework for all of us, if you go to your handbook and go to 2.08.080, it's the power and duties section. Why don't everybody read that and maybe
Could you
next
give me
time-
that string of numbers again?
I was gonna say.
2108
2.08.080.
point.
Yeah.
080. Power and duties. And then we could discuss that maybe next time and see if how we could fit to work with, talking to the council or working on this project and that sort of thing.
Now, this is the corridor project? Okay, the thing circled back a couple times, so I got lost.
And waterfront.
Powers and duty.
Powers and duties. Maybe an update on what's going on with the waterfront would be nice.
Do we have anything?
Yeah, someone got hired for something. Didn't a developer get hired?
I mean, there's
There
Tokala.
was only one person. that
Wait, am I
applied and we
remembering it
hired
right?
them, right?
Is it Tokala?
Tokala,
Yeah.
yeah.
So they're not hired. What is our relationship with them? I mean, we had the
What is it?
we put some outreach. They were the only people who bid.
Yeah.
And what?
We're in an exclusive negotiating agreement with Tokala.
For how
To
long?
do what?
I don't know the status of that contract, but we were supposed to be negotiating pre-development terms. So
Okay, and
who
they're-
does what? And
they're-
I know they completed a market analysis for the hotel, and basically made sure that the numbers would pencil for them. And then they did an analysis for their residential phases. That's the last I've heard.
So a big component is going to be the city's ability to help with that. Of course, that takes money. Largely through Jenny's work, the city applied for the build grant. Yeah, the build grant, which was 15 million.
Last cycle.
You
Yeah.
lost it though.
So we didn't get that, but we're in a contract again, so the application cycle's opened again. and we're reapplying. So we're using the same firm to better position our proposal and make it more competitive. And we're also getting more specific on the design. So one of the weaknesses of our last proposal was that we had a large percent in contingency because the design wasn't as finalized. So we're making some assumptions about what the boardwalk or riverwalk will look like,
Yeah.
just so that we can have a better grasp on what permitting would be needed, and we can further the efforts basically we want to prove to the federal government that we can complete the project within the time allotted for the grant.
And Tocola wants the 15 million. They want a piece of money to come up.
No,
and
they
get
don't.
involved.
They don't need any of the money, but the city has to develop the public infrastructure to support
okay.
his investment in the site.
Right.
So that's,
And that infrastructure would be the walkways down there and that?
yeah, so the public access along the water is
Right,
a
that's
component.
what I'm-
And then since the build grant is a transportation grant, so we're focused on the transportation components. And so that also includes the extension of Strand Street to the Tualatin right-of-way and then back up to First. So it's the first little block of transportation.
So from a financial standpoint, there's the grants, which is the anabolic steroid version of getting the money. It gives us a bunch at once. The normal workout without steroids routine is our urban renewal plan. And we have a lot of properties in urban renewal that are being developed, legacy apartments, other ones. And over time, we'll start receiving more urban renewal funds. But it's going to be several years before there's substantial monies in the urban renewal fund. So that's the slow go. And then the grants in the meantime may help give things a boost.
Tocola is only taking a bid on a hotel?
No, they have 2 or 3 phases of residential too proposed, and they're initial drawings.
All conceptual.
Yeah.
We haven't.
There's been no applications. That stuff will be very public, like when
I
we
would
actually
hope
get.
so.
Yeah.
We haven't vetted them against
Yeah.
standards.
Yeah.
It's just
Okay.
been general
Well,
discussions.
but can anybody else come in, and they've got exclusive rights, right?
That's what
Correct,
they
but we're
just
not
said.
being solicited by
do you s-
developers for this.
Well,
site.
I've got some ideas,
Sure.
and I think this town needs it. You bring Tocola in, they've got a lot of pretty pictures on paper, but they haven't
That's
done a
right.
lot. They just did the Fremont Bridge in their company.
Tocola's done a lot of projects. Yeah, they've done a lot of public-private
The one-
partnerships.
One river one I saw that isn't, I don't think it's out of the ground. That's just,
No, so they've developed hotels and they've developed in Independence, Oregon. They're working on they've worked on other projects in, I think it's Grants Pass. I can't remember their qualifications, but city council has sat through presentations by the owners of Tocola and their architects that they use, and we're fully on board.
Weren't they involved with the Renko station?
Yeah.
Was that the one in
Yeah.
Hillsborough?
Yeah, I thought I
Yes.
remember them talking about that.
which
Yeah,
is,
in
which is
Hillsborough.
no great success. Sorry.
I don't know much about
I
it.
think there was one in Hood River too. Yeah,
I guess the problem I have with this, sorry.
yeah. But it is mixed-use development built on a brownfield, which
Yeah.
is exactly what we have.
Well, there's
so.
issues on,
And it was a public-private partnership using urban renewal, so there's a lot of similarities.
I still have issues,
Yeah, also that.
getting on one wagon when there are people out there that, developers in Portland that need to be talked to.
Yeah.
There's Zidell, there's Snitzer, and these people have developed, in a big way. Those are just 2 big names, you probably heard the name, but there's other ones. And to just pick one and go with them, have they been vetted with the rest of anybody? No, and it's.
I mean, we did a public bidding process. We solicited.
You went in the Daily Journal of Commerce, right?
Yeah, and we solicited specific developers and asked them to submit, and we actually had to extend the deadline because people were not submitting.
Yeah, well.
So I think we're a niche market, and I think that we are lucky to have Tocola on our side, is my opinion.
Okay.
Just as a side note, and this is not specific to the waterfront development, just in general, just to Russ or to whoever on planning commission, is that city councils had in the last 4 years quite a bit of pressure about being builder friendly, being development friendly, being business friendly. And I've talked to a couple of builders out here that we've seen in this room about having a conversation, kind of not like in this room, but just let's have coffee and talk about solutions. And, you know, just if any of the planning commission would like to be open to that, if the council move forward with something like that, if you would make time for that kind of conversation.
Oh, I
Not
think it's
like, not
important.
like here's a plan, let's
Yeah.
draw on it, but let's just have a talk and just listen and that kind of thing, just exchange ideas.
Well, on that
Because
note,
Russ has got a lot of things and Dan has a lot of ideas that it'd be cool to hear some more of that stuff.
on that note, in the last chambers, city council, the apartments asked to Bancroft or whatever you want to call it, you know, finance their SDCs.
Right.
Did that? Well,
It went through.
It went through. Okay.
Yeah, Matt did the research.
Yeah.
And Sue Matt and Sue worked on that together and said there's standard in the industry
Yeah.
that this is what people do.
Right.
And they're going to come up with an actual, an official process for determining the rate, because as opposed to pulling something out of our hat to look at what other communities and have it linked to a market value, whether it's the current rate or
Well, it happens
the
all the
average.
time in other communities. There's a certain rate, and then
Right, how they do the rate. So then if he does it this year and somebody else does it 3 years from now, we'll know how we got this number. And then if it takes a while,
it's usually
it will.
tied to the federal rate. And
Right.
Yeah.
And they talked about that. So that did go through. And I do appreciate your comments about the bond, because I was really concerned when that came up. That was just a recommendation to council. So I was glad that you weighed in on that this time.
Yeah, I just heard it. I saw it on the TV, and I wish I was here with Greg to talk about it more. But any additional cost, I mean, if I do a development, my company has insurance all the time, but I get a whole nother insurance policy just for that one particular development. And, you know, you're talking, it's not cheap. And if you're going to throw a bond on that, you know, public jobs, they need a bond. And so that's an added to the cost of the public. But when you're private, you have to go to the bank for all this sort of thing. Anytime the projects are so tight now, and affordability, I don't know, nobody can.
There's just no margin for error at all, as it is, without adding another layer.
Yeah, so that's why I'd like to not see that happen.
Yeah, and the other concern is if you have an enforcement bond, you know, you're accusing people of being guilty before the crime has been committed,
Well,
and that.
yeah, and if you're inspector or enforcer, or you're going around and you see something, you know, you can act on it. So it's about enforcement and working with somebody that you see is not. I mean, the Ken Leahy one was going on for a long time before. I was always driving by that and wondering why hasn't anybody said anything. But then you look at the city. Never mind. All right.
Well, someone did. I was just gonna say, you can, without some insurance up front, you can't get away from you. The Department of State Lands has all these lessees for docks and in-water structures, and the last big one that blew up in our faces was the River Queen up by Gold Bowl, and all the other 27 boats that were collected around it. Cost us $7 million to clean that up, and cost you $7 million. Anyway, now lessees are putting up some pretty big insurance, and we're scrutinizing him. This guy had insurance, but he lied on insurance form, so the insurance didn't cover anything, and things like that. So there's we're definitely setting ourselves up so we have the money to clean up if we have to.
But Dan, gasoline and a match doesn't cost that much.
Yeah, except it doesn't burn very good when it's sunken.
Sinks. But that thing sat there for a long time, so your
Well,
enforcement
it shouldn't
failed.
cost $70 million. to
No, it added more. That's the problem. It was all the 27 other boats.
I mean,
that
that was
sunk.
there for, I remember it was in Portland.
years. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been there for 25 years.
There wasn't anything wrong with it being there, as long as they were working on it. It was collecting the 27 other boats that had full of hazardous waste that the Coast Guard said, you know, you can't have any hazardous waste out there. And they said, well, we don't have any hazardous waste. And they looked at them, and there was, 33,000 gallons here and 30,000 gallons there, and
Wow, really?
drums of things that you don't know what's in them. And I went on the site.
Wow.
It was pretty ugly.
Even if you require a bond, there's people that still want to screw the system and get away with
People
something,
that are
so.
crooked, and the bond's just gonna hurt the honest guy.
I know. It's.
You can believe some builders, some.
I used to write a lot of contracts when I was a consultant, and we'd get burned, and then we'd add more assumptions, and we'd get burned, and we'd add more assumptions, and I had these trusted clients that would say, "Boy, it looked like you trust me." Well, I trust you, but I didn't trust this other guy that screwed me over. So I just got 3 pages of assumptions and 1 page of contract.
And you got to treat everybody fairly, and
I know. Sorry, Rose.
that's the joy of governance and development review.
Okay, shall we end this? Motion to adjourn? Okay, we do.